What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to episode 9. Y'all, we had episode 9. I just gotta put this in there because I'm just so thrilled. I'm so excited to be talking to y'all every week. If you are new here, my name is Keita. I am the founder and the host of Becoming a Better You podcast. This podcast was created after I had to start my healing journey from the loss of my son, Bryson Holman. And I am just here to share my story and to help other people get their stories out. We are a small platform, but we are consistent, and you're going to get some good information, some good knowledge, and encouragement. So if you have not done so yet and you are new here, I need you to do me a favor. It's the only favor I'm going to ask for today. I need you to go ahead and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the Bryson Harmon Foundation. Our live streams on Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you would just like to get to know me, want to see some funny reels, want to see more inside of my life, my kids, my relationship, you can follow me on TikTok at Keita_TBHF podcast. We're doing good. We are 100 away from 5,000 followers. Facebook, we are 3 people away from 500 followers. YouTube, y'all know I complain about YouTube all the time. How, so, and ever. I'm going to be grateful for all things, even the little things. Because when I started out with maybe 3 followers on YouTube. And I ended up, I think just recently I checked it and we were at 37 or 40 subscribers. And so I'm really happy for my 40 because my 40 watch every week. And I'm so happy and thrilled and honored that people want to sit and listen to me for an hour. So thank you to everyone who shares the podcast, everyone who watches it, even if you don't engage in it. You know what? My views go up. So I appreciate you for that. But share, tell a friend if there's ever a topic that you really relate to and you know somebody who could relate to the conversation, share it to them. You don't have to share it on your public page. You can share it in your inbox, however you see fit. If you want to be a blessing to me or the podcast or the foundation, please feel free to do so at Pretty Girls Worship on Cash App. That is Pretty Girls with a U Worship on Cash App, just in case you are listening while you're driving and not watching. If you want to be a part of the podcast, you want to be on an episode, there's a lot of opportunities for co-hosting. I actually have a person next week that I'm trying to run through this episode because I want to make sure she has all her time on the next on her segment. So if you want to be a part, you have a story you want to tell, there's no story too small, too big, too graphic that you cannot share. This is a safe space. You have any questions about episodes that we've done prior and you just wanted some clarification, feel free to hop in and ask me. I am an open book, as you can see. So if you want to be a part, go ahead and contact us at the Bryson Holman Foundation at gmail.com. I will respond. I promise you, you will not be on deaf ears. I will respond. Now that we got the business out the way, before we go into part 2, let me just say this, okay? Now I need y'all to get close when I say this. I am not trying to bash anyone. I am not using my platform to dog anyone. My platform is about my experience, my life, my story, my healing journey. And so with that being said, if I had to be completely honest about the death of my son and all of the things, whether it be something in error of me or of the other person, whatever, I was truthful about it. So, in this segment of the absence of a father, I can only tell my truth, my story. I am in a good place in my healing journey in regards to my father. So some of this stuff may seem like digging up the past. How so? Whenever this is a major part of how I became who I am. This part of the absent father affected me in so many areas of my life that I cannot tell my story. I cannot invite you in to know who Kita is without expressing this part of my life. Now, I need y'all not to do it. Please do not inbox people, send messages, don't text my mom, don't do any of that in calling yourself defending him. Me and him have had conversations. He knows that there's no more apologizing about it because I've forgiven it. And he knew about the podcast. He knows about the book that I'm writing. So he is definitely aware that he is a part of it. One thing you cannot do is be offended about something and then want all the tea about something else. The reality of it is this was a major impact in my life. And there is someone out there who maybe is thinking that they don't suffer with daddy issues because their daddy wasn't there, and they're blaming it on other things. And maybe my story, my situation will help them. Because if I'm being completely honest, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this disclaimer, but I got to put it out there, y'all. Being honest, episode 1, I was uberly careful in how I told the story and what parts of the early part of the story that I told. I can't do that in this part to a certain extent. I can't. So in that, I'm saying I am really trying very hard not to come across as bashing anyone. I have to tell the story. And so if this part bothers you, this may not be the segment of the podcast that you would like to watch. And that goes for everybody, because I also said some things in the last episode about my uncles, and they didn't take offense. And so these are conversations that I've already had with these people, because I had to sit down and have some the hearts. And so please don't think that these conversations have not been had and they are not aware that they are very much a part of my story. Okay. I love y'all. I love y'all with the love of Christ, and I hope that anything that you are dealing with from your past or anything like that, that you have gotten complete healing from it. And I wish you all the very best. Now, get your cup, get your popcorn, get your chips, get all that, because we got to get into it. We got to get into it. And if y'all see me moving around a lot, I am kind of going through some things in my health, and I definitely got to get a better computer chair because it's starting to get very uncomfortable, and I don't know. And I'm working on getting a background design so that we can stop using the AI background, but work with me. Baby steps. Okay, so part 2. Last week we left off on I was 10 years old. Christmas had happened, and he came to the house with bags full of broken and burnt toys. And from that point, we didn't really have a conversation. I would like to backtrack a little bit, because something that I totally forgot to put in there was one, prior to that, when he would come by the church, I felt like he was kind of like a showboat person. Like, it was, to me, always to prove to other people that he wasn't as bad as maybe my mom said he was, or, I'm claiming him to be. So there was actually one Sunday that he came and like disrupted service. Like, I think it was like towards the end of service, where at that time Bishop would do like announcements and, you know, just we closing out the service, getting ready to do benediction, and here he comes in with all these toys, putting them on the floor next to the organ, which is where my mom was. Mind you, at this time, again, I'm not hearing from him for months at a time, and so it was just like things like that would make a person, when you reevaluate it, you're like, that wasn't about me. That was about you. That wasn't about me. And I do want to correct something that I said in part one, that I had never met his people. So at some point, when he actually would come and pick me up, I have been taken to a family function, I believe. But I don't remember it well. And it wasn't enough for me to remember who the people were or anything like that. It was like a one-time thing. So let me correct that. So now we haven't really been talking since the Christmas. Like, we really wasn't talking before then, but definitely in my mind, I hated this man. Okay. And I started to see myself in a very negative light, which is what we discussed last week. I'm going to be moving a little bit faster. So if you missed last week, go back and watch it. And so this started to affect me at school. I told you I was brought up apostolic. I still am apostolic, Pentecostal, baptized in Jesus' name. But back then, the outer apparel was a really strict code for us. So, we didn't wear makeup and earrings and jewelry, and we couldn't wear pants, so we wore long skirts or whatever. And so in my experience, may not be other people's experience, I was bullied a lot at school because I stood out. That was it. Now it don't bother me. I wear what I want to wear, but then kids can be so cruel. And so that was the last thing that I wanted to do, was stand out. And so I got teased a lot. And that added on to what I was already feeling about myself with what was going on at home. So around, I want to say I may have heard from my dad once between ages 10 and 16. And that conversation didn't go well because, as I said, I've already said in my mind at age 10 that I hate this man. So every ounce of respect that I could have, like, I wasn't giving it to him. I will say that I was a very disrespectful child. I mean, I was disrespectful. And so he called. I think it was around my birthday, but he couldn't remember like how old I was, and that sent me on a loop, and I did not want to talk anymore. And around this time, there were also rumors going on that my god brother was really my real brother. My god brother is older than me. And so all this time we had known him and was introduced to him as my dad's godson. Now, of course, people will say that me and my brother look a lot alike. But as far as I know, and for my podcast sake, I'm just going to say it is rumored that he is my blood brother. But we never like took, it wasn't like nothing that would have been like, oh, like, how could this be? First of all, he was older, so that would have meant he was born well before I was born, or even my mom and him were together. And also, I love my brother. Like, so it didn't matter to me either way. For me being the only child, that's the least you can do is tell me I got a sibling somewhere. Like, it didn't bother me. So this is just a part of now what is going on in this circle of people that we are around, that uh that is now starting to also get back to me. Like, all these things that I never knew. Because at this time, the relationship is only about me and him. And I didn't really know who he was prior to me being born, or like some of the stuff that had went on in him and my mom's marriage, enough for me to be angry about that too, you know? And so the last memory of me seeing him prior to 16 was he had opened up a church. So I had to be like 12. Yeah, so that makes sense that that he called me around that time. So he had opened up a church in Decatur and invited my family church to come out there. So my family church got a van or whatever, you know, because it's the godly thing to do. And we went to go visit. And while in that service, he got up and he was like, and my beautiful daughter is here all the way from Chicago, da 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 da. And I didn't even want to stand up. My mama was like, get up. I was like, I'm not standing up because you can't be talking about me. You know, you ain't talked to me and I don't know how long. And I ain't forgot about Christmas. Like, you know, to a kid, if you can put grudge holder in a dictionary, baby, it was me. It was me. When I tell you, my whole attitude and demeanor had changed to like this person who just has so much hatred and hurt in their heart towards him. And it was like the more you tried to show that you were going on with life and you wasn't pressed about the fact that you didn't have a relationship with your daughter, the more they like fueled that fire with me. So the fact that we are at your church with people that see you all the time, you have a life, I don't remember if he was married at that time, and you doing your thing. And I just happen to be a second thought at some time every 6 months, you know. But I stood up because I'm scared. Like, I stood up, and that was the last time I seen him or heard from him until 16. So my 16th birthday, sweet 16. Around this time, I had met one of my best friends, Tiffany, which I'm gonna have her. We have recorded, but it messed up, so we got to re-record. So around 14, I met her, and she had really tried to help me build my self-esteem. Okay. And she was, you know, giving me certain hairstyles and stuff like that kind of made me feel like a normal teenager. I mean, I think when you're raised by older people, even though my mom was in her 30s when I was a teenager, if you come from a culture of, you know, modest apparel and all of that, it's considered old looking to people outside of that circle. So like, even sometimes me and my cousins, we go back and we look at old pictures and we like, why were we dressed in 3-piece double-breasted suits like for Easter at 12? Like, but you know, and I'm not saying there was anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying how you're not living in that circle of people all day, every day, 24/7. So when I stepped outside of that, it gave me the realization that I was different from everybody. So she really tried to help in that space. So at 16, it was my 16th birthday. My mom had planned a party outside. And this was a few days right before the party. I get a call from my dad. He wished me a happy birthday. Asked me how old I was. I told him I was turning 16. And he said, you know, happy birthday, and I got something to tell you. So, okay, what's up? And he says, you have a sister, and she's 16. I was like, what? Like, and I would really like for you to meet her, and maybe she can come to your party if you're having a party or anything like that. And I'm silent on the phone because, huh? Like, what? How come every time you call or you come by, it's like some chaotic event or some traumatizing event? And so for me not to have spoken to you in some years, and it is now around my birthday time, and this is what you decide that you want to tell me, I was a little taken back by it, but I needed to ask my mom, like, I needed more information, like, because I didn't understand how was it possible that I had a sister for 16 years and no one said anything to me about it. Now, rumors are going around about the brother, but nobody's saying anything about this girl. Like, where did she come from? And so, of course, I knew I wasn't going to get that information out of him, but he just said, he had found out that this was his daughter. And so I was excited to meet her. And so I did tell him that he could bring her to my birthday party, which was at my house. And so we got off the phone with that. And I immediately went to my mom, like, okay, well, what's T? What's going on? He just called and said that I have a sister that's 16. Like, did you know about this? And so my mom started to tell me that when they were on their honeymoon, she received a phone call that a woman had just given birth to a baby that was his. But my father denied. I was asking her like more details about it, but she didn't really want to talk about it. So at that time, so she just was like, I'll tell you on another day. I think she really wanted to avoid adding to my anger at this point, because that everybody knew, it was obvious that I did not like my dad. Like, that was like a triggering point. You could have a conversation with me and mention his name and I just blow up off the raptor. So I decided to leave it alone, and I was very excited to meet her on my 16th birthday. So she ended up coming to the birthday party, and like, we look like sisters. Like, we look like sisters. There's no denying that we look like we have one of the same parent, or even closely both of the same parent. And I loved her. Like, we talked, we got to know each other. She told me her side of her relationship with my dad, and I think that was one of the reasons why we really couldn't be as close as you would think that we would, because in the 16 years she had nothing negative about him. She talked to him, she saw him all the time. She didn't have anything. He bought her bikes and all this other stuff, and went to her graduation, all of these things. And that, because we couldn't see eye to eye on that, like, she couldn't understand where I was coming from, because she was all, forgive. And I'm sitting here like, the more you tell me that he was around for you and not around for me, only hurts the situation. Because here's a person, and it's no offense to her or her mom, but here's a person who was rumored to be your child, or was claimed to be your child. Here I am, the one that was born from the woman you married, and everybody knew that I was your child. And so you denied these other children, but claimed me, but you took care of them and not the one you claimed. So it was just really disheartening. And we bumped heads a lot because of my feelings towards my father and her just kind of being like, he's changed, he's a good person. And I'm like, no, no, like he proves to me all the time that he's not. So another experience in that was that the churches that he would be around, they all the young people loved him. He would take them, to Pizza Hut and, arcades and all of this stuff. And I would know about it because when they see me, they'd be like, oh, why you didn't come with your dad? He took us to, Chuck E. Cheese. I'm just going to say Chuck E. Cheese. Why you didn't come? And I would not know anything about it. Like, I was never invited to that. The quality time, the person that you portrayed yourself to be to the youth of other churches and to your other daughter and just your friends, your family, you never gave that to me. And so it just added on that, well, if he could be that person for her, then it must be something about me that makes him reject me. And my mom opened her, welcomed her with open arms. She spent the nights with us. It was never nothing like, my mama feeling some type of way because, he had another child. Like it was never like that. It was just like, okay, this is my daughter's sister. Like it was fine until we stopped talking for a little while. And we don't have no ill will towards each other. It's just we were in two different spaces, two different people. And sometimes I feel like it's harder to try to connect people when they're almost adults. Like that was just really difficult. But I love her to this day. That's my sister, my blood sister. And so, that is what it is. So shortly after that, he wanted to take me and her to breakfast and to go and see his mom. Again, let me say this before I tell this part of the story. If you wasn't there, you don't know. So, okay. So, he took us to breakfast and then we went to go see his mom. The only reason why I okayed it is because my sister, talked me into it. Like she was literally like, come on, please, like let him show you that he's trying to do better, yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, okay, fine. So we went, breakfast was fine, whatever. They seemed to definitely have more of a bond than me and him did. And we went to see the mother. So, she introduced herself as my grandma and all of that. Mind you, this whole time, the whole 16 years, I have only known my mother's side of the family. Like, that's it. I mean, like, really known them. Like, practically, we lived with my grandma. So, like, that's who I was around. And so, we were talking and she asked why I don't call her and stuff like that. And that I was getting offended because I feel like this to this day, that children are not responsible for maintaining a relationship with the adult. So if they're, to me, if, because they always say the father's mother is the one that's not really involved or whatever. To me, if my son had a baby and I noticed that I didn't see that baby a lot, I would be in contact like, hey, I'm just checking on, my grandbaby, little Tootie Too. Like, is she okay? Does she need anything? I'm sending a gift. Where do y'all live? Like that kind of stuff. And I never saw that from that side of the family. I never saw this need to want to be around me or, get to know me. And so that conversation turned into a bashing of my mother, that my mother never liked them and my mother kept me away from them. And, she was mean and she was this. And I don't know what came over me, y'all. But even as religious and Christian and saved as I was supposed to be, I went off. I went off because one, you're not going to sit here and talk about my mom. She's not here to defend herself. Number two, I know for a fact that a lot of what I'm experiencing has nothing to do with her because I've watched her be upset and still allow this man to call me and talk to me and come by the house. So I went off. My sister was trying to calm me down. He wasn't really too much saying anything, but it had gotten way too heated. And so I was ready to go home. I asked him to take me home. He took me home and I didn't talk to him no more. I did tell my mom like what happened. She did correct me on, you can't be just going off and cursing people out. Like, you still have to have respect for your elders and stuff like that. She said, but I understand. Like, it had made her mad too, because it was like, this was your one opportunity. Like, you haven't seen this girl in a long time. This is not the time for you to give off your thoughts and your feelings about her mom. This was about you and the child connecting. And I think that is what people lose sight of, is that sometimes you make it so much about the mother, the other person, not knowing what the son has done or anything, that you missed your opportunity on getting to know me. I was the important person of that situation, not my mom, not my family. It was about me. And so, yes, I had a lot of resentment towards that side of my family from that day. Like, before, I just was like, oh, well, they never reached out to me. And I didn't have no ill will feelings towards them because I didn't know them. But that particular situation, like, it really heightened my, like, okay, well, yeah, let's talk about it, because where were y'all? Today, I don't feel that way because a lot of his sisters and his brothers, they follow me on Facebook. We have talked. My shout out to my auntie Angie, because we talk all the time. Well, not all the time, but she's the one I have most communication with. I can just text her if I need her. She always tells me, like, you can call me, niece. Like, so shout out to auntie Angie. But and I've talked to some cousins or anything like that, but now in my adulthood, but then that's how I felt. I felt like, okay, he didn't want me and they didn't either. And that they were so focused on whatever they felt about my mom that they didn't care. That was that. So again, I'm going through teenage years without him and without my uncles. My granddaddy was older, and so we had a relationship, but he was never the type to be like, oh, you so pretty, or, let me tell you about boys and all this stuff. He wasn't that type. He was more like a provider. I provide. You want to go to the store? Here's some money. You want to go get White Castles? Here's some money. Let's go together. You want to go to Dunkin' Donuts? Come on, let's go. Like, that was more of his speed. He wasn't a big talker. So, like, having no deep conversations with him, that wasn't going to happen. And my uncles were in their own world. My oldest uncle was dealing with an addiction. My middle uncle, he was concerned in areas of when it came to schooling. So I had to bring home good grades, or less, he was not happy, and he would reward me for being a straight A student. And I maintained that because I wanted to make him and my mom and my grandma proud in that area. But he was doing his own thing. He was working, dating and all that, because he's an adult. And then my youngest uncle, who was 15 when I was born, he was doing his own thing too. He was a ladies' man. He wasn't really, I don't want to say he wasn't concerned about it, like, oh, my niece is a teenager or whatever. I think they feel like because my mother was such a strong person, and that she was the go-to for everybody, that her parenting was enough. And as I said, for her, she worked a lot because she had to provide for me. Like, she had to make sure I was straight. At one point in time, she put me in private school. I was always in a good school. So, that stuff costs money. She worked to provide. Yes, we did. Me and my mom have a very close relationship, but there's always something that can't be missed in it, because you're working and you're providing what you can emotionally and all of that. So it really, my situation really was needed to be a village effort. I put it that way. Especially with me not having any siblings. I didn't have anybody else to like relate to me because I was the only child. So I was surrounded by those adults all the time, every day. And during school, I started realizing that people only liked me for what I could do. So in in middle school, they talked about me for the skirts. They talked about me for being dark skinned. They talked about me for, being chunky. And then when I sang for the first time at an assembly, not everybody wanted to be my friend. Everybody was cool with me. Now it didn't matter about the skirts. And the same thing happened in high school. And so that is what added on to feeling like, okay, there's something about me that people don't like, but they like a person who is funny. So when I'm funny, they want to be my friend. Or when I sing, they want to be my friend. So I just learned this. People will gravitate to you if you give them what they like about you. That's a message. Because that explains a lot of how some of my early on relationships started, because I was giving them what they wanted from me, hoping in return that I was going to receive some type of love, care, from them. And I did not. And so, still having this mentality of the stuff with my dad don't bother me, like I'm good, like, if anybody know me, I still to this day will get that attitude, and then on the inside I'm crying like a baby. Like, I still have moments where people ask me about certain situations or whatever, and I'd be like, that don't bother me. Like, it is what it is. But on the inside, I'm bothered. I'm very bothered. But I learned in that time space how to stuff things in and not deal with them, because cry for what? Like, that's not going to bring them back. If I tell my mom is bothering me, we're going to talk about it for a little bit, but that's not going to bring him back or make him do right. And so I just stopped talking about it. I stopped talking about it. And things were good for me at church. We had left our home church to go and help out another ministry. And, I was singing and doing stuff there, and I have friends there. And so it wasn't, I would say it wasn't affecting like my social skills, but it also made my relationships with people impure, because the low self-esteem seed was planted, rejection was planted. And so then you spend your time in these relationships trying to figure out how to keep people liking you. And a lot of times it causes you to not be authentic. You're just being a chameleon. You're just being who they are. Or if they the mean girls, then you're gonna be a mean girl. If they thugs, you're gonna be a thug. If you know what I'm saying, if they like drinking, you gonna like drinking. Just if they promiscuous, even if you ain't doing it, you're going to talk like you are, because you just want to be accepted. And by any means, you don't want to ever feel that rejection, even though there's no way to avoid it. Because if you're not being authentic, and if you're only getting into these friendships and relationships based off of needing to be accepted, then you're going to feel their rejection when they drop you, when they leave you, when the mean girls turn on you, when now the people who drink want to be sober and now you look crazy. Like it's so many aspects of that where I was not being authentically me, and I really didn't understand who I was until a lot later in life, because I spent a lot of time being a people pleaser or needing to be surrounded by people. And I hate that it took so long to get to that realization. I hate that, I got myself in a lot of situations that I should not have been in because I wanted friends. I wanted to feel accepted. You know, it even boils down to not even people on the outside. And like I told y'all in episode 1, my grandma loved me. My granddaddy loved me. However, you know, I couldn't just go get a hug from my uncle or, and me and him have talked about this, and I'm not going to say his name. But we've talked about how when I was growing up, what I wanted from him, I watched him give to all of our cousins. Like, I wanted him to be affectionate with me, and he wasn't. I wanted hugs and laughs and tickles, and you wanted to be around me, and he wasn't. But he was like that for others. And I told him, this was some years ago that we had this conversation. It made me feel like you literally hated me. Like, what did I do to you that you didn't like me? Or, and um it it was so many factors of things that I was not getting at home. And that is why one of the things that I do want to reiterate, because we were all in church. My uncle's a minister. I told you everybody was musicians and evangelists and deacons and all this, and we were at church all the time. You cannot be so focused on that part, and the church is having a bake sale and we got to do this for the church, do this and do that, that you're not even recognizing that there's a change happening in your children and the person that's there. And I can say that honestly because I have been also guilty of that. I've been guilty of that with my oldest. You just be so caught up in everything else that you're missing that something is going on with that particular child. And sometimes by the time you realize it, the damage is already done. And so now you're just trying to help them get through it or do some healing. So in that time frame, more things came out, about my dad. He had been married multiple times, had these aliases. My mom was still trying to at least get some type of child support or anything from him. She wasn't able to do that. He wasn't calling me or talking to me. I wasn't reaching out to him. He moved around a lot because he had different social security numbers. So sometimes we wouldn't know, where he was until somebody would say, oh, I saw him. He's in Alabama. Or I saw him. He's in North Carolina. I saw him. He's living in Detroit now. Like it was just so many things. I would see people stories of people, looking for him because he was into some other shady stuff. And, it was a lot. It was a lot of times that my mother has almost gotten in trouble with the law because of things that he bought her. Or, at one point in time, I remember when I was younger, they had a finance company that she had to get out of because so like it's it was a lot to take in, and it was a lot also for me to deal with the fact that, you know, but you're still someone's pastor, you're still someone's, you know, leader, someone else's husband, someone else's father, and you're doing these things and not taking care of your responsibilities. I could not understand. I could not come to grips with it. Even down to me having a sister and stuff, just the discretion, the wisdom that you didn't understand, you know, just always coming in and dropping a bomb and leaving. You know, I think my last straw in my teenage years was, obviously I had gotten pregnant at 19. Yeah, I got pregnant with my oldest at 19. And he wrote my mother this long email and basically went off on her about how she raised me, because he had gotten word that I had had a baby, and you know, she raised me to be a hoe, and I was going to be a street woman, and the gall of, you know, feeling like, how do you even have an opinion about that if you weren't here to raise me? You know, it seemed like an opportunity. Like me getting pregnant at 19 was his way of being like, see, you the problem, to my mom. But never the fact that, you know, I was top 10 in my class in 8th grade, passed, graduated high school, skipped a grade. You know, I've always been a straight A student, you know, that I was in college when I did get pregnant. You know, none of those things mattered to him, that I actually turned out to be a decent person. It was, he needed me to make this one mistake for him to put the blame off on someone else. In that same time frame, I received a call from him where he decided, this is how I know what was in the email, because he decided to tell it to me to my face, that I knew better to have a child out of wedlock, and you know, you're not with the father, you're not married to the father, blah 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 blah. Now I'm 19, so my disrespectful words were a lot worse now that I'm an adult. And so I pretty much said, well, I guess my kids are going to experience the same thing I experienced with you. If that's how you feel, the, you know, out of wedlock stuff, they're going to be raised without a father. My mama was married to you, and I was raised without a father. So the fact that he would come to me with like this degrading stuff and say the hurtful things that he said, it just, it crushed me. My father literally became my ticking time bomb. Like, any sort of you mentioning him to me was like fighting words, like you calling me out my name. Because how could this person who rejected me my whole life, in and out, dropping bombs here and there, having children, and me not knowing about them until they teenagers, and you know, uh never really taking care of me, but always being around these other people. You know, you got numerous of women who dislike my mom, and she hasn't been with you, and for you to wait until I was 19 and then hear around the grapevine that, you know, you're a grandfather, and in that moment, instead of being like, you know, Keita, you know, I'm really sorry I wasn't there for you, you know, how's the pregnancy, you know, whatever, because you decided to use that to attack me and attack my mom. It is the reason why it took me so long to come out of hating him. And again, for podcast purposes, I'm being very light in the things that were said. I guess my question to him at that age was, what did I do to hate for you to hate me? Was I not pretty? Was I, did I not look how you thought I was gonna look? You know, you can't say, well, it was because I thought you wasn't mine, because I literally was born directly after the honeymoon. Like, she came home from the honeymoon finding out that she's pregnant. So like, what was it? Could your disdain for my mom be so heavy that you wouldn't care for the child, even though it's been proven that, you have multiple affairs on her? You did a lot of things that would have warranted her getting a divorce. You know, just why? Why? You know, in my relationships with men, I'm starting to feel like that early time I was attracted to a kindred spirit of my father, because I was really attracted to the ladies' man. Uh the one everybody wanted, but somehow he only wanted me. And I'm sure that was because I was naive and gullible and all of that other stuff. And like I've said in podcasts before, episodes before, a predator can sniff out that low self-esteem. They know you don't think much about yourself. Like, they know that they can tell you the smallest of things and you will fall in love with them. And so I really believe that searching for that, um, it's sad, because searching for that can put you in a whirlwind of emotions and situations. And if you don't learn from it quick, you'll keep making the same pattern over and over again, same mistakes, same, situations, finding yourself in the same predicaments over and over again. Which is, like I said, which is why I do this podcast, because I want someone to really look into why we do the things that we do. What are they rooted from? Why have some of us been in some of the relationships that we are? What are we looking for in those relationships? What happened to us that subconsciously we are attracted to a certain kind of person? My healing journey has been a rough one. And we're going to get to that in part 3, because there's some things that happen as an adult. Not so much because I completely like blocked him out of my life. When I say block somebody on purpose, like blocked him on social media, I blocked him everywhere. I didn't want him to be a part of anything that I had going on as an adult. I was very adamant on, you missed your opportunity when I was a child. You can't be involved in my adult life. So there were some things that happened in my adult life that I was certain that I would never be able to forgive this person. And um and then, situations happen where you have to let go for you. But we'll get to that in part 3. Y'all stay tuned, because I do have an episode coming up with my friend, my sister, Kia Nicole, and we're gonna really kind of get into some of the self-esteem stuff and confidence. With that episode being entitled "Beauty is Only Skin Deep." I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you really enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the follow button, hit the share button. Also, hit the notification bell so you can be notified as to when we are live on Facebook and YouTube. I am working on a new outro, y'all. That's why it hasn't been an outro for when we end the podcast. But y'all bearing with me, and I really appreciate that. I really love that about y'all. But until we meet again, until next week, I need you to do me a favor and talk to somebody, have that conversation, start start dealing with some of that childhood trauma, and be healed. Bye, y'all.